yourself, go jump on the treadmill.
I'm just having him on my panel so people can see what these people act like. That's all. Go.
I don't care.
Please.
You insult my prophet, and you insult my prophet. You insult my prophet. You're executed. You are executed. You get this when you execute the prophet, and I don't take that. I don't apologize for that. You're disgracing the honor of our prophet. You get.
There is a rule in modern Western society that you are not allowed to question certain ideas honestly. One of those ideas is that all religions are interchangeable, that they all produce the same societies, that they all hold the same relationship to law, power, and authority. That assumption is false. And when it comes to Islam as a political and a legal system, that false assumption has become dangerous. Before I go any further, I need to absolutely make this clear. This is not an attack on Muslims as a people. Muslims are individuals, many of whom live peacefully and want stable families in order just like the rest of us. This is a critique of Islamic doctrine, law, and political theology as historically understood. Ideas matter, texts matter, systems matter, and not every system is compatible with every civilization. Section 1. Islam did not begin as a private faith. Christianity began as a persecuted religion. For nearly 3 centuries, Christians had no army, no state, and no legal authority. Christ explicitly rejected political power, saying, "My kingdom is not of this world." Islam did not begin this way. From its earliest years, Islam was not only a religious movement, but a state-building project. Muhammad was not just a spiritual teacher. According to Islamic sources themselves, he was simultaneously a religious prophet, a military commander, a judge, a lawgiver, and the head of the Medina state. This is not Western interpretation. This comes directly from Islamic history. All present Muhammad as an exercising political and military authority. Islamic scholars themselves divide Muhammad's life into 2 periods. The Meccan period, when Muslims were a minority, and the Median period, when Islam became a governing authority. It is during the Median period that armed conflict is authorized, legal punishments are introduced, political dominance becomes explicit. Modern Western discourse focuses almost exclusively on Mecca. Islamic law is derived primarily from Medina. Modern Western discourse focuses almost exclusively on Mecca. Islamic law is derived primarily through Medina. As historian Bernard Lewis wrote in The Political Language of Islam, from the beginning, Islam was a religion of power as well as belief. This difference matters. Section 2. Conquest is structural to classical Islamic law. Classic Islam does not view the world as morally neutral. Traditional Islamic law divides the world into categories, most famously, the House of Islam and the House of War. This framework appears across all 4 major Sunni schools of law. This is not fringe ideology, it is classical Islam. The concept of jihad, as understood historically, was not limited to internal moral struggle. It included armed struggle for the expansion or defense of Islamic rule when conditions allowed. This interpretation is documented by scholars such as Majid Kudahar in War and Peace in Law of Islam. Between the 7th and 8th century, Islamic empires expanded rapidly through the Levant, North Africa, Persia, Spain, and parts of Central and South Asia. These expansions were military conquests, followed by legal and social subordination of non-Muslim populations. Conversion was encouraged, but rule came first. This does not make Muslims uniquely evil. It makes Islam structurally different from Christianity. Christianity spread primarily through missionary work and later state adoption. Islam is spread through conquest, followed by religion's governance. Those origins shape everything that followed. Section 3. Islamic law conflicts with Western liberal foundations. Western civilization rests on several core assumptions: individuality, equality before the law, freedom of speech, and freedom to leave or criticize religions. Classic Islamic law rejects all four. The act of leaving Islam is historically punishable by death in all four Sunni schools of law. This is based on chronological hadiths such as Shah al-Bukhari 69:22, which states, "Whoever changes his religion, kill him." Blasphemy is criminalized under traditional Islamic law, as documented by scholars like Rudolf Peters in Crime and Punishment in Islamic Law. Women and non-Muslims are assigned unequal legal status in classical law. Inheritance laws differ by gender as stated in Quran 4:11. Legal testimony historically carried unequal weight. Non-Muslims lived under dhimmi status and paid the tax. These are not Western distortions, they are documented legal norms. A society built on freedom cannot peacefully coexist with a system that criminalizes it. Section 4. Muhammad as a timeless moral model. In Islam, Muhammad is not simply a prophet who delivered a message. He is considered the perfect moral example for all time. This creates a serious ethical conflict. Islamic sources document that Muhammad led military raids, approved enslavement of captives, exercised sexual access to slaves, and he also married a 6-year-old named Aisha. You cannot say that this was a different era if the figure is presented as universally perfect. That moral framework collides directly with modern Western ethics. Section 5. Taqiyya and strategic concealment. Western liberal societies operate on the assumption of good faith. Islamic law includes doctrines allowing concealment of beliefs under certain conditions. Taqiyya, most developed in Shia theology but discussed more broadly, allows believers to hide religious intent when under threat or disadvantage. This is documented in the Encyclopedia of Islam. This does not mean Muslims are inherently deceptive, it means the doctrine exists. A system that assumes transparency is vulnerable to a system that permits strategic concealment for survival and dominance. That mismatch matters in societies. Section 6. Why immigration flows into the West. There are over 50 Muslim-majority countries in the world. Yet migration overwhelmingly flows into Western nations, not into Islamic states. People migrate for rule of law, economic opportunity, stability, and personal freedom. But importing populations without enforcing assimilation creates a parallel society. Scholars have documented how Islamic enclaves in Europe retain separate legal and moral norms. Multiculturalism assumes that all value systems can coexist indefinitely. History says otherwise. Section 7. Civilizational self-preservation is not hatred. This argument is not about hatred, it's not about race, it's not about collective guilt. It is about acknowledging reality. A civilization has the right to preserve its moral and legal foundations. Tolerance without limits is not virtue, it's surrender. And a society that refuses to draw boundaries will eventually be ruled by one who does. Closing. Truth is not violence. Boundaries are not oppression. and civilization do not survive on guilt. If Western societies cannot name what they are, they will lose it, and history will not be kind to their silence.
Is going to be more of the message that should be sent to the people here, in that they have achieved victory. We haven't done anywhere near enough. And the people here, I promise you, we do feel ashamed. We do feel like we're not doing enough. We do feel like change needs to come, because change must come. And in the form that it must come is that this empire, the American empire that's been hurting our people since the beginning, the imperial Western powers that have been hurting our people since the beginning, they must fall. And inshallah they will fall. And my message to the people of Gaza and the oppressed peoples across the world is that there are people here, both young and old, who are going to be willing to fight and are willing to put their lives and everything they can on the line to bring these empires down, because they must come down.